Welcome back, dear listener. If you're here for the first time, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this story with 10 friends to help us grow and bring you more heart-touching stories. Story title: He Was My Husband's Father. I never imagined that my life would twist into a tale too complicated for words, where love and betrayal walked side by side in the same hallway. My name is Claire, 29, married to Jason Hart, a real estate developer in Austin, Texas. We had a comfortable life, no kids yet, but enough plans and Pinterest boards to fill the future. Jason was good to me, present, ambitious, but he was often too busy to really see me. When Jason's father, Richard Hart, came to live with us after his hip surgery, I didn't think much of it. He was a 54-year-old retired naval officer, charming in an old-school, disciplined kind of way. He had salt and pepper hair, piercing gray eyes, and a voice that could command silence even in a crowded room. He was also attentive. Where Jason forgot to ask how my day was, Richard remembered what I wore last Tuesday. Where Jason skipped dinners for business calls, Richard sat with me, asked about my writing, poured me wine, and laughed at all the right moments. His presence filled the space that had grown quietly hollow. It started with conversations. Then long walks. Then a soft touch on my shoulder that lingered too long. I should have stopped it. I didn't. One rainy afternoon, while Jason was away on a business trip in San Diego, Richard and I were caught in the living room during a thunderstorm. We were watching an old black and white film, and I felt his gaze on me, gentle, intense, unrelenting. He didn't say a word. I didn't either. When he kissed me, it wasn't fiery. It was quiet. Almost like an apology. But it was wrong. I pulled away, breathless and broken, because in that moment, I saw the truth. I was starving for affection, not love. And he was trying to feel young again, not fall in love with his son's wife. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did he. Weeks passed. Life moved on, or at least, it pretended to. Jason never noticed anything unusual, but I did. Every time he looked at me with innocent love, my guilt quietly carved deeper into my chest. I tried to convince myself it was just a moment, one stolen kiss. But it echoed louder in silence than it ever did in action. I stopped writing. I stopped smiling fully. And Jason, still busy with meetings and deadlines, didn't notice that either. But one day, a letter arrived. No name. Just a small envelope with my name in bold handwriting I knew too well. Claire. I left because I had to. Not for you. For him. I failed once, years ago, as a father, as a man. I will not fail him again. You deserve love that doesn't come wrapped in guilt. You deserve freedom. But if that moment meant something more to you than a weakness, then I'll be at the place you once told me about, the cafe with the tree lights and the broken jukebox. Just once. No questions. No explanations. Friday, 6 p.m. I folded the letter 3 times before hiding it in the drawer. My heart thudded for hours like I had committed a crime. Maybe I had. Not legally, but morally. That Friday, I stood in front of the cafe, heart trembling. I shouldn't go inside. But I did. There he was, sitting alone in the corner, nursing a black coffee. His eyes met mine and everything froze. Not because of passion. Because of regret. Because of honesty. Why did you come? He asked. I don't know, I whispered. Maybe to say goodbye. Maybe, to see if I still felt what I hoped I didn't. He nodded slowly. And do you? I didn't answer. I looked at the jukebox instead, the one that never worked. It suddenly lit up, flickered once, and started playing an old love song. I almost laughed at the irony. Maybe the lesson wasn't about love, I said. Maybe it was about learning where not to find it. He smiled softly. Or learning when to walk away from it. I left the cafe that night without touching him, without another kiss, without even a hug. But with a truth I hadn't faced before. Because not every love is meant to bloom. Some are just meant to awaken. I thought walking out of that cafe meant closure. But silence doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes, it delays the storm. A week later, Jason found the letter. He had been looking for a receipt and opened the drawer where I'd hidden it, carelessly, stupidly. He didn't say anything for 3 days. No yelling. No accusations. Just a stillness that wrapped around our home like fog. Until one night, over dinner, he finally asked, "Claire, did something happen between you and my dad?" My fork froze midair. It was the way he asked, calm, like he already knew. Like he was just waiting to see if I'd lie. I couldn't. I didn't. I didn't sleep with him, I said quietly. But something happened. Just once. A kiss. It shouldn't have. I didn't mean for. He stood up before I could finish. Not angry. Not loud. Just broken. He left that night. I moved into a small apartment near the library. It was quiet, old, and a little sad, like me. Months passed. Jason didn't reach out. Neither did Richard. Maybe I deserved that silence. But life has a strange way of circling back. One morning, I received a phone call from a hospital in Marble Falls. Richard had suffered a mild heart attack. He was asking for me. Not Jason. Me. I drove 2 hours with my heart in my throat. I wasn't sure what scared me more, seeing him or seeing the guilt in his eyes again. When I entered his hospital room, he looked smaller. Weaker. But his voice was steady. "I'm not dying, Claire," he said with a half-smile. "Just got a reminder that I'm not as invincible as I thought." "I shouldn't have come," I whispered, but I sat down anyway. "No. You should have. Because I owe you something." He pulled out an old photo from the drawer beside his bed. It was a picture of a young woman holding a toddler, Jason. "That was his mother," he said. "My wife. I cheated on her. More than once. I was selfish. Cold. I didn't understand love then, not the kind that sacrifices. And I lost her because of it." I stared at the photo, suddenly seeing pieces of Jason in the woman's face. I failed as a husband, and later, as a father. When you came into our lives, I saw everything I never gave his mother. Everything I never gave him. And for a moment, I wanted to steal it. He looked at me then, his eyes wet, but clear. "You didn't betray him alone." "I did. Twice now. 1 year later." The seasons had changed twice since I last saw either of them. I had found a rhythm in my new life, simple, quiet. I taught writing workshops at the community center, walked to the farmer's market every Saturday, and even started journaling again. The wound hadn't fully healed, but it had scarred, tender, but no longer open. Then, on a gray February afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text I never expected. "Jason, I'm outside. Can we talk?" I froze. I hadn't heard from him in over a year. Not a word. I had seen pictures of him on mutual friends' social media, traveling, working, living. But not once had he reached out. Until now. I opened the door, and there he was. A little older. A little thinner. But still him. He gave me a soft smile, and for a second, we just stood there, like strangers who used to share dreams. "Can I come in?" he asked. I nodded. He sat on the edge of the couch like he didn't quite belong anymore, and maybe he didn't. "I went to see my dad last week," he began. "He told me everything. The truth. His truth." I said nothing. I knew he needed to talk. "I spent the last year trying to hate you both. Trying to erase you. But it didn't work. What hurt most wasn't the kiss. It was that you felt something with him you never found with me." Tears welled up in my eyes. "It wasn't love, Jason. It was attention. I was lonely. You were never really with me, even when you were home. I know, he whispered. There was silence for a long moment. Then, he pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded page from my journal. One I thought I had lost. It read, "Some loves don't fail because they were wrong. They fail because no one chose them every day." He looked at me. I want to choose better next time. For myself. For whoever comes next. I smiled, softly. Me too. He stood to leave, but before walking out, he turned back one last time. Claire, for what it's worth. I did love you. Deeply. I just didn't know how to show it. And I did too, I said. But sometimes, love isn't enough. Last scene. Jason walked away into the foggy evening, no anger, no bitterness, just the weight of two people who had finally let go. Richard passed away 6 months later in his lakeside cabin, quietly, peacefully. He left behind a letter for Jason. And one for me. Mine read, "What we shared may not have been right. But it woke us both up. My final wish? That you live without shame. And never confuse attention with love again." Life lesson, final words. Love, to be real, must be chosen every day. Attention is fleeting. Passion fades. But truth, even painful, sets us free. And some stories aren't about happy endings. They're about honest ones. Clapperboard, thank you for listening to this emotional journey. Sparkling heart, if this story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Books, and remember, every end can be a beautiful beginning.